Hi, this is Good Game from themtgnoob.com, and I'm going to be bringing you some modern two-man queues with a mono-green elf aggro deck. This is a deck I've been working on lately. I don't think it's quite good enough for a daily event yet, but so I'm just kind of working on it in two-man queues for now. But the way this deck wins is by playing a lot of creatures that eventually get way too big for your opponent to handle. The reason I think the deck is kind of well positioned in the metagame right now is because nobody is really playing sweepers anymore. Nobody's playing Wrath of God, Damnation, or Fire Spout. The only sweeper that is seeing a little bit of play is Pyroclasm, and you can get around that by just playing two lords. First you have all of your mana producing elves, Arbor Elf, Llanowar Elf, and then Heritage Druid combined with Nettle Sentinel to provide crazy amounts of mana. Then you have a bunch of lords. You have Archdruids, Champions, Perfects, and Warcallers. And the Warcallers are especially well when combined with the Paragons, because Paragon gives all warriors an additional +1/+1 counter. So Draga Warcaller's ability then gives that +1/+1 to all other elves you control. So it's a very nice combo. And then the Archdruids help cast all your spells, while also making crazy huge Warcallers that eventually just overrun your opponents. I have two Champion and two Perfect. Neither one are that good, but you just need another Anthem effect. The Elvish Champion is very good in some matchups. Matchups like Zoo or Jund, where they often have a Forest or Pod. The Naiapod decks don't really have Forest, but old Melirapod decks most of the time will. Just make your creatures lethal in a turn or two when they can't block them. And the perfect is good for sometimes grinding out when you need to grind games out, but that usually doesn't happen. Usually just make a huge wall of guys, then they either have an answer or they don't. So the Perfect's ability is not super relevant, but once in a while it'll come into play. Then you have probably the best card in the deck, which is the 4 Lead the Stampede. Lead the Stampede is often a draw 4, draw 5 sometimes. Once in a while it'll be kind of mediocre and only get you 3 cards, but it's still just crazy value and just puts you way ahead of the decks that are trying to just 1-for-1 remove all your guys. Lead the Stampede is the reason why I think the matchups like Jund or Delver are actually decently good, because they have all this removal that 1-for-1s your guys, and you play Lead the Stampede and draw 4 cards, and they're just so far behind. As for the sideboard, it's just the sideboard for you can't get too crazy with mono green, so just have very narrow cards. But you have Grafdigger's Cage for Storm or Pod, Nature's Claim for Affinity, or it's not bad against Storm either, since they have Pyromancer's Ascension. Dismembers are for Pod and Splinter Twin. And you have Creeping Corrosion, which is almost exclusively for Affinity. It's very, very hard for them to win if you resolve this card. Obstinate Baloth, combined with the Primal Commands, take care of the mono-red matchup. I had Leylines in here for a while, Leyline of Vitality, and they were really good, but then they were actually bugged on Moto for a little bit, and they might even still be, I'm not sure. So I had to take, you weren't able to put them into play from your hand at the beginning of the game, so I swapped them for Baloth and Primal Command. I've actually liked that a little better, so I've left it here. I don't even know if the Leylines are still bugged or not, but so that's for mono red, and I might bring in it also against like Boros or something. I'd probably bring in the Baloths against Delver too, just as a something to block Ice of St. Trap and gain some life. So let's get to some matches.